Good morning, St. Francis. Good morning, people of God. It is Sunday, the 21st day of the month of April 2024. It is the fourth Sunday of Easter. It is the 22nd day of the Easter season. Coming to you from, again, the patio of the Friary Rectory here at St. Francis. Again, a cloudy, rainy, very cool day today in North Carolina. Quite a difference from the rest of the week that we've experienced, where it was like in the 80s, almost the 90s. So it's a little bit refreshing. It's kind of nice to be out here again. A lot of the dogwoods have again lost all of their leaves. We've gone into the azaleas are in full. The azaleas are in full bloom right over there. Latter part of spring here in North Carolina. The readings for today, this fourth Sunday of Easter. So, like I always say, we move into the fourth Sunday of Easter, leaving behind all the resurrection appearances. So we get 3 weekends of that, including Easter Sunday. And after that, we have to leave the empty tomb. And we got to be convinced by this fourth Sunday of Easter, which is almost the midway point. Again, the 22nd day of the Easter season, almost the midway point in our 50 days of celebration. We must be convinced by now that Christ is risen. We do not need any more appearances. We do not need any more proofs. We now take it as a truth, as a reality. And so now we begin to move into, what does resurrection mean for us? How does resurrection impact and affect our lives? Jesus no longer has to kind of keep pointing the way. Now we just have to take the way and to live it. And so today, Good Shepherd Sunday, because called Good Shepherd Sunday because even from time before the Vatican Council, this fourth Sunday of Easter was always dedicated to various passages of Jesus describing himself as the Good Shepherd, both basically from John's Gospel, where that kind of imagery comes from. And so a different part of the section in which Jesus talks about himself as the Good Shepherd is proclaimed each of the cycles during the Easter season, A, B, and C. So in this B cycle, Jesus talks about the relationship that the shepherd has with sheep. Now, again, shepherds and sheep, they don't mean much to us unless you are a person who does sheep farming, has some kind of farm or some kind of agricultural experience, like this. For most people, it's kind of just, okay, it's a nice little imagery and that's about it. But it shouldn't be left with just like a nice little imagery. The relationship, again, that the shepherd has with the sheep is used as a metaphor for the relationship that God has with us. Again, this sense of care, the sense of love, the sense of protection, the sense of looking out, for us. That is what God does. And again, resurrection is supposed to put an exclamation point upon that, that God's looking out for us, God's taking care of us, is not something that is temporary or something that is passing or something that's once in a while. God's taking care of us is true to the nature of who and what God is and what our relationship with God is. So we have to move away from, again, these ideas sometimes of God as this overlord or taskmaster or whatever it is that we have to kind of prove ourselves to, or that we have to make love us. Again, that was one of the most terrible things that happened after the Reformation, is that, again, church and its leadership basically thought that the way to keep Catholics Catholic would be to tell them that God doesn't love you and that you have to come to us to make sure that God loves you. That is erroneous and absurd and ridiculous. And yet so many of us live in that kind of a world. Is a God who builds relationship, a God who wants to be a part of our lives, a God who does not need to be pushed or kind of pulled in or tricked to like us or to care about us. It is a God basically who is of the nature that God is, to love and to care for us always. And so what that then translates to is basically looking at ourselves and then our own relationships with each other. Because sometimes what can happen is we can take all kinds of relationships for granted, or we can see relationships only through the eyes of those that are good for us and not necessarily those that are also challenging for us. All of this helps us to grow in one way or another, to become the people that God has asked us to be, that God has created us to be. It comes through relationship, not necessarily through learning, not through knowledge, not through power, not through influence, not through authority, anything else like that. It's this relationship that builds who and what we are as the human family, and also then builds the reign of God, allows the reign of God to be more and more revealed in our midst. That is important to remember. Christmas kind of celebrates relationships all the time. You know, again, we talk about family and friends at Christmas, and we try to make this entire season sometimes about the wonder and beauty of family and friendships. And generally, most of that is just surface. It's a time to kind of look good with family relationships because everybody is doing it, and there's all kinds of decorations to make that seem, you know, something wonderful and beautiful. But here in the Easter season, we come to the real delving into what relationship is. Again, Jesus suffers and dies and rises because of the relationship that Jesus wants us to have with God and with each other. Nothing more and nothing less. And so if that relationship is so important, then our relationships must also be just as important. And without having all the fluff and flurry that Christmas offers, you know, about relationships, here we are in this time, you know, in which so many other things sort of intervene in the Easter season to kind of distract us from the Easter season, to being brought back on this Sunday to think about what makes relationship possible in our lives and how wonderful it is that we can have relationships. And even if we have been hurt by them and we have been dismayed by them or disappointed by them, it doesn't mean that we give up on them, because that is how we keep our humanity intact. That is how we allow our humanity to grow and allow that humanity to express the wonder and beauty of God's reign among us. A continued blessed Easter season, St. Francis and people of God. May the Lord give you his peace.